The Scholarship of Teaching and Learning really inspired me. I knew I liked to teach. I got good teaching evaluations, but I always felt that there was a proportion of my class. I teach a very large class of undergraduate anatomy students. There are over 400 in there. I felt that there was a proportion of students there that I wasn't reaching, or even though they said they enjoyed the material, that I thought, is there a way that I could teach them better? And after becoming involved in the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, I realized I should be approaching my teaching like I was approaching my science, where I should be doing methodical assessment, data collection, analyzing the data, and don't necessarily rely on conventional wisdom. When I first began teaching, I would say I was in the lower right quadrant, lower left and lower right quadrant. I commenced practice of teaching, and then as I started to become involved in the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning workshops, I started to share a little bit more about teaching itself. I didn't necessarily publish anything at that point, but then starting in 2000, I started to do some methodical assessment of my own teaching. So moved into scholarly teaching in the early 2000s, and that led to the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, where I developed I prepared presentations based on some of the data that I collected and some publications, and I think I'm in that upper right quadrant ever since. I had a mentor in the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning program who initially started this program, Samuel Thompson at IUB, who has since retired and moved on to other things. He was essential in letting me use him as a sounding board and saying, here are some things that I'm interested in doing. So he gave me some guidance. There were other more senior members who had been participating in Scholarship of Teaching and Learning who sat down with me for a cup of coffee and then said, yes, what you have here is a good idea. Have you thought about doing this? So initially it was just going to be, let's try some new little things and see what happens. And then I realized, oh, I could do something a little bit more methodically. So it was with the gentle prodding of multiple mentors. My first question about teaching and learning was, does the incorporation of interactive learning activities in a large lecture course improve course performance measures, such as student engagement, as well as course performance measures such as exam scores and lecture exam scores? My background was in quantitative research methods, so I defaulted to the quantitative methods initially. In this undergraduate anatomy class, I've had numerous students who said, I'm interested in the material, I'm engaged, but I just don't seem to be studying appropriately. I don't know how to study. And I thought, well, if we did some lower stakes active learning activities in the course, is there a way to help scaffold and model some of the studying and methods that they should be using as they're studying instead of simply reading over their notes? Based on the results, I determined that using these interactive learning exercises produced better course performance measures, increased student engagement in class, and students seemed to have a better idea as to what was expected of them in class. So since then, I've tried to incorporate more of these activities in class when I could. So I feel like I've become less of a sage on stage and created more lecture-based activities that have more punctuated active learning components in them in the large class. My colleagues and I are examining how graduate students learn to become teachers in their disciplinary-based graduate student programs. So we're examining that landscape. I'm also working with some colleagues on an edited volume where graduate students have written about how they've developed as teachers, and we are looking for a publisher there. And then my colleagues and I, another set of colleagues of mine and I actually set up an Introduction to Education Research seminar for anatomy professors. And we're evaluating the outcomes based on this 5-day workshop that we hosted last year. So we're developing a bunch of publications based on the assessment data. First and foremost, the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning community here at IU Bloomington and the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning. By having colleagues who I could bounce ideas off of, that helped me expand my research questions and help me move from just a purely quantitative research focus to more of mixed methods, looking at both quantitative and qualitative. In my discipline in anatomy, we have more individuals who are involved in looking at education research as well. So I have some disciplinary colleagues there as well too. My SoTL work, I would say, is in two general tracks. The first track is on graduate student professional development as they move from novice teachers to more scholarly teachers. The second path is looking at medical education, anatomy education. So I examine a variety of topics within my discipline itself. What I would say is, first dive in, start to do some reading. Take a look at blog resources, articles in a variety of your discipline-based journals to see what has been published, what has been out there. Secondly, gain some mentors. See who else is working in the field that may be also in your discipline, and ask to talk to them. Most of these individuals are more than happy to sit with you over coffee or lunch and say, okay, you're interested in doing this. Have you thought about reading such and such work, or doing this, or would you like me to come in and sit in your class? And then we can bounce off ideas. So I would say don't be scared, but look for mentors, and because there are many individuals who are more than happy to help you out. Scholarship of Teaching and Learning is a great venue for individuals of a variety of disciplines and fields. As a result of my work in Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, I was able to move from a non-tenure track position to a tenure track position, and I ultimately was promoted to professor based on that. So I would like to encourage others, especially who may feel like they want to explore other venues of research, examine the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, and prepare to be surprised where it could take you in your academic path.